"Sir, you dropped something?" The young soldier's voice was low but firm, carrying across the hushed walkway of Arlington National Cemetery. Heads turned. The clink of metal against pavement had been barely audible, but it felt like the sound shattered the still air. The old man froze. His back was slightly bent, his hands trembling at his sides, his once crisp olive uniform now softened by time. He turned slowly, eyes falling to the small glint of bronze and ribbon on the ground. The bronze star. His bronze star. Before we move further into this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear. Let's dive in. Visitors paused mid-step, whispers fading into complete silence. The tomb guard, dressed in perfect ceremonial blues, had already knelt. His polished shoes reflected the overcast sky, his white-gloved hand reaching not with haste, but with the precision of someone handling something sacred. The old veteran's lips parted as if to speak, but no sound came out. His eyes blinked rapidly, fighting back something deeper than embarrassment. The guard picked up the medal and rose to his feet with mechanical grace. But instead of simply handing it back, he held it at chest level, his own head bowed. The silence deepened, even the wind seemed to still. Visitors on the distant path slowed to watch. "Sir," the guard said again, his voice edged with emotion despite his disciplined stance, "this belongs with the man who earned it." He stepped forward, his arm extending, but before releasing the medal, he locked eyes with the veteran. "And it belongs where the world can see what sacrifice looks like." The veteran took it slowly, his gnarled fingers closing over the ribbon. His voice cracked. I didn't think anyone noticed anymore." "I notice, sir," the guard replied without hesitation. "We all notice." As the old man clutched the medal, his gaze drifted over the endless rows of white headstones. He could see faces that weren't there, faces of men he'd fought beside, laughed beside, buried beside. He thought of the day he earned that medal, the heat, the noise, the screaming orders, the explosion that knocked him into the dirt, the weight of his friend's body in his arms as he pulled him to cover, the sound of a helicopter overhead, the smell of burning oil, the pounding of his heart. They gave him the medal weeks later. But in his mind, it had always belonged to the ones who didn't make it home. He'd come to Arlington quietly, as he often did, to visit their graves. The medal had been tucked in his coat pocket, meant to rest for a while on one particular headstone before he took it back home. He hadn't even noticed it slip free. The guard took a step back and saluted him, sharp and flawless. The crowd that had gathered instinctively straightened, hands over hearts, hats removed. A child whispered to his mother, "Is he a hero?" The mother's eyes softened. "Yes, sweetheart." Both of them. "Ah." The veteran returned the salute slowly, his arm less steady but no less proud. For a moment, it was as if time folded, the decades between the two soldiers vanishing. One had already given his fight, the other was still standing watch, both bound by the same code. When the guard lowered his hand, he spoke again. "Sir, with your permission, may I walk you to your friend's grave?" The old man's eyes glistened. He nodded. Together they moved down the path, one in polished black shoes, the other in worn leather boots. Every step felt like a ceremony. Visitors stepped aside without being asked. Some filmed, most simply watched in reverent silence. They stopped before a single headstone, its inscription sharp and clean. The veteran knelt, knees protesting but heart steady, and laid the bronze star at its base. His lips moved in a private conversation with the stone. When he stood, the guard bent and lifted the medal again, pressing it gently into the veteran's palm. "You keep it, sir," he said. "It's a reminder, for all of us." The veteran's mind flickered to the day he first met the tomb guard's kind. Men who watched over their fallen with unwavering devotion. He'd always admired their precision, their refusal to let anything break the sanctity of the tomb, but he had never expected one of them to stop for him. In his mind, he was just another old soldier, fading into the crowd. As they walked back toward the main road, a quiet ripple of applause rose from those who had been watching. It wasn't loud or drawn out, just enough to let him know that in that moment, everyone there saw him, really saw him. The guard gave him a respectful nod before returning to his post. The old man lingered for a moment, watching him march away, every step deliberate, every movement a silent vow. He looked down at the medal in his hand. Its edges were worn, the ribbon slightly frayed, but it gleamed in the muted daylight, as if it knew the story it carried was still alive. The veteran closed his fingers around it, feeling its weight, not in ounces, but in memories. When he finally turned to leave, a young man in civilian clothes approached him hesitantly. "Sir, my granddad served too. Thank you for what you did." The veteran smiled faintly, shaking his hand. "Tell your granddad we're proud of him." As he reached the gates, he paused for one last look at the rows of headstones stretching into the horizon. The guard was still there, a lone sentinel, rifle in hand, every movement measured. The veteran knew he might never see him again. But he also knew he would never forget the moment a soldier of a new generation had stopped the world just long enough to say, without words, that sacrifice never goes unnoticed. You never know when a simple act of respect can echo louder than applause. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know how you feel in the comments.